Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and we're going to get started with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. Let's go ahead and jump up to our ultra-high time frames here, take a gander at what has happened. I highly doubt there's going to be anything new to say on these ultra-high time frames. We've got our quarterly, we got our monthly here, and we got our weekly, and all three time frames look very strong with no signs of exhaustion. On our weekly, we talked about the potential of this bullish divergence off of the low on this most recent weekly candle here that has yet to close. So as this continues to form and develop, and then the signal closes at the end of this week, we do have all day today and then all day tomorrow for that to kind of change, and you can bet on it changing there. So we'll have to take a look at this on Friday afternoon and see if we still have the same situation. The only problem with this type of signal, and this is something that I've brought up in the past, but it's a good thing to kind of refresh your memories about. If you look here at what's going on, if the price here continues to drop, it can come all the way back down to the low of this candle, which is 43.47. So we're talking like 150, maybe 200 points. It could continue to drop, and assuming we make lower lows on RVI here, we're still going to have the same bullish indication or bullish signal once it officially closes. So although this is a nice looking situation right here. Welcome, Sislo. We were trying to get you in here, so glad to have you. We're just getting started with our pre-market. The problem is this could fall 200 more points and we'd still essentially have a bullish divergence. So it doesn't really help us with any type of order entry or anything like that, but just an interesting thing to kind of keep our minds on. And if this candle does close and we have the same situation, and then the next candle opens and closes in a situation where this RVI then makes a nice peak right here like that, then yeah, we will have a pretty nice bullish divergence. So let's go down to our daily and take a look here. We actually have a very similar kind of situation. Maybe not the same levels, but we do have this situation where we're getting a bullish divergence right now off the daily low, and actually this is the inverse of that, so I take that back. Not the same thing as what we're seeing in the weekly, but we are seeing the potential of what could be a bullish divergence here off this low. Now again, it's similar in the situation that if it comes down to this low here, which is at 62.25, then and it stays above that, then we will still have that bullish divergence. So you want to keep in mind that we're at the low of this candle is right around 83, 84, 85, 85.50 actually. So it still could come down to this 63 area and we would still have that bullish divergence as well. Also need to keep in mind that the candle that closed yesterday did not give us any type of bullish or bearish indication from a divergence perspective. However, this current candle has the potential to do that. The problem I'm seeing here is that if this new daily candle, which will close at the end of today, if it closes and the RVI ends up staying up here or something like that, we'll no longer have the bullish indication. So this situation right now is not necessarily helping us out in the strongest way, but we will want to monitor it and see what it looks like here at the close. So if I could just summarize the ultra high time frames here, everything looks very strong with no signs of exhaustion until we get down to the daily, and then we get that bearish indication from the all-time high. That's the only clear signal that we have right now on our high time frames, is the bearish divergence off the all-time high that we made on September 3rd. And then from that point, around 45.49, we've pulled back now into the 44.90 area. So let's see, maybe 50, 60 point pullback so far from there. And like I said, we don't really have any indication, any signal to rely on or hang our hats on in the local area here this morning. So that's the only thing we see, is that bearish divergence off the all-time high. When we get to our 4-hour, we do also have the agreement from the all-time high back on September 3rd. Bearish divergence from there eventually did follow through for this pullback. Now, yesterday we talked about a potential bounce from 44.98, and I believe the market came down, bounced right at 44.97. Then came up and pulled back and went a little bit deeper, getting closer to the close from yesterday. What I want to point out here is if we zoom back here to the highs that we made at the end of August, we are finding a little bit of support right now off of that previous resistance. So if we do stay above this area this morning, it could mean that we are going to continue to push higher here, just because we are finding some support off this previous structure back here. From a divergence perspective this morning, nothing too pretty over in the local area giving us any clear indications. We do have this kind of situation, and this is something that I don't like to really hang my hat on, and that is the fact that we did get this bullish divergence off of the low from September 7th. And you could make the argument from the previous swing low back here on August 26th. Is that 26 or 27? 26 there. You got that bullish divergence from that low. Now, the way I like to look at things to iron out some signals is I typically like to now look at the most recent low here from where that most recent divergence formed to now compare the next setup. So I don't necessarily like to come over here and start doing this, because now every single low is going to be another divergence. And so, I don't necessarily like to rely on that. But you could make the argument that now, since it did not hold here, it carried down to here, and now we're down here. And some people out there might be able to make an argument that we do still have bullish divergence compared to the low we made back on the 26th. So that is there off the overnight low. But like I said, not the type of setup I would like to see. Love to see something in the local area, something like you see off the highs over here or over here. Not this type of setup, but it is what it is. It's what we have this morning. Let's go down to our 60-minute here. 60-minute did get a bullish divergence from the overnight low, and currently our overnight high, or very close to our overnight high, I guess that could technically be over here. Not necessarily anything too strong from a divergence perspective. So let's go down to our intermediates and see if we're getting agreement with what we're seeing on the higher time frames, and then kind of wrap things up here. So we'll go up to the 30-minute, and there was that bullish divergence off the overnight low. And currently, we did push to this new high here compared to the previous high in the pre-market session. Don't necessarily have any type of strong bullet or bearish divergence from there either. And then on the 10-minute here, we basically have a bullish off the low, bearish off the high. So let's kind of rehash everything really quickly here. Ultra high time frames look pretty strong. No signs of exhaustion. We get to the daily. We have our first official signal off, a bearish signal off the all-time high. Nothing that we can really say at the current moment on the current candle. On the 4-hour, we get to the situation where there's an argument for a bullish divergence off the overnight low, and no signs of exhaustion on the current push. The 60-minute bullish divergence off the overnight low with no signs of exhaustion on the current push. We get down to the 30-minute bullish divergence off the overnight low with no signs of exhaustion or off the current high that we've just made. And then the 10-minute does have a little bit of a bearish divergence off the top end here, but also does have the bullish divergence from the overnight low. So what we're seeing here, and we're building up the case that we have a lot more bullish signals off the overnight low than we do have any type of bearish indications off the current highs. Yes, there's a bearish indication on the 10-minute here. In fact, it's an actual official signal since that bar did close. but we don't see that on the 10. We don't see it on the 30. We don't see it on the 30. We don't see it on the 60. We don't see it on the 4 hour. And so because of that, I would expect that we could push a little bit higher here this morning before there's any type of continued sell-off. And right now, because we do have some more bullish cases off the lows as we dial to the higher time frames, I'm going to argue that we have a little bit more of a bullish case this morning, expecting to break the overnight high. We don't have a good case for how high we expect the market to push here, but we could expect the market to go ahead and push above that overnight high, and ideally stay above this 44.95 quarter area or 44.92. Anything lower than that is probably going to be a retest of the lows, and if not, a continued push lower. But right now, we are relying on what the signals are saying. The signals are saying we do have the potential for a larger push higher here. And I think that's where we'll leave it for this morning. There are a lot of good levels to rely on here as potential areas of contention for the bulls as they attempt to push higher. And we do have a lot of levels that we can be looking at. So as we get closer to these levels, we'll go ahead and look for signals for potential trades on our shorter time frames.